Thanks to VCRs and VHS being so affordable, almost every household in Japan had one. By 1983, Studio Pierrot wanted to capitalize on this new media format and decided to create the world's first OVA. OVA, or original video animation, are animated releases that are made specifically for home video, like a direct-to-home video releases. They say that Osamu Tezuka's The Green Cat is the very first OVA in 1983, but there's no physical evidence that the series actually made it to home release. Therefore, Studio Pierrot is credited for officially creating the world's first OVA. These animated home releases, oftentimes episodic, have various runtimes and have never been broadcasted on TV or shown in theaters prior to its home release. Dalos, the name of the very first OVA, was written by Hisayuki Toriumi and directed by now-famed anime director Mamoru Oshii. It was initially conceived as a TV series project, but it never got past the planning stages. However, Bandai Visual enjoyed the content of the project and thus, Pierrot decided to release its home video. Unlike anime made for TV or theatrical releases, Studio Pierrot didn't have to worry about trying to market toys. What made this production possible was the fact that Bandai Visual, a subsidiary of Bandai, focused mainly on international distribution of anime properties in North America. In addition to that, there were no television restrictions that they had to worry about, since these special anime went straight to home release, giving directors and animators more freedom. Dalos is a science fiction story about the colonists who were placed on the moon to mine its resources. These colonists were treated unfairly over the years and were seen as lesser humans, being referred to their ID number instead of their name. They then form a rebellion against the Earth Federation, fighting for their freedom in hopes to return to Earth. Among this conflict is a young boy named Shun, who joins the colonists in their fight. These colonists worship something called Dalos, a mysterious artifact on the moon that looks humanoid in appearance. Each episode ran for 30 minutes and was released every 2 to 3 months for a total of 4 episodes. Here's the thing though, episode 2 was the first to be completed, so Studio Pierrot released that episode before episode 1. The last episode released, episode 4, leaves off on a cliffhanger, but until this day, the OVA has yet to continue. Writer Toriumi admits that he and Oshii spent so much time kneading the stories together that it became unnecessarily complicated. Although to the late producer Yuji Nunokawa, the two worked very well together. Toriumi was in charge of the first episode, while Oshii was in charge of the second episode. Episode 3's story was completed by both directors, each taking care of one half of the story. While I couldn't find an exact number of how many tapes Dalos sold, Nunokawa does say in his book that it didn't sell really well. From this project though, Oshii went on to direct more OVAs as a freelancer. About a decade later, Studio Pierrot marketed Dalos as a Mamoru Oshii past masterpiece, a work that hardcore fans were happy to throw money at. After the world's first OVA was released, other studios soon followed suit, putting out original stories as well as stories based on existing work. In fact, the world's second OVA is a hentai, or adult erotic animation, called Lolita Anime. By 1985, 2 years after Dalos' release, the number of OVAs for existing works as well as original stories increased exponentially. Some of the most famous anime series started off as OVAs. One of the most popular examples is the Tenchi Muyo series, which started off as a 6-episode OVA in 1992, which has then spawned multiple anime series, a manga, and even receiving a North American release. Gundam Wing had a 3-episode OVA that ended the series, titled Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. The OVA was popular enough that those 3 episodes were compiled into one movie with additional scenes and a new theme song. The mobile suits in the show went through a redesign, most likely to sell more toys, in addition to the home releases. As a standard practice, every first volume of an OVA series was sold at 1,000 yen, about $10 US. The reason for this low price point was to gauge how the series would sell. If the series sold well, then the following release and the compilation were sold at a higher price point of 2,500 yen, or about $25 US. As the years went on, anime became more and more easily accessible, thanks to the cost of VCRs and VHS tapes dropping. The number of video rental stores reached its peak in Japan, and anime VHS became the most rented item at these shops. Amidst this boom, new fans of anime, adults who knew how to utilize all the features of a VCR, entered the scene. Thanks to this trend, animation studios began churning out series that catered to the mature audience, and these fans bought and rented everything. By the 2000s, the PlayStation 2 video game console was introduced to the world that had one feature that made it a must-have in Japanese households: the ability to play DVDs or digital video discs. Unlike VHS, DVDs were more compact, had clearer picture quality, and didn't require rewinding. The thing about anime on DVDs though, was that each disc only contained a few episodes. Despite its storage space, they were sold at very high price points. Back in 2012, the average price of a DVD that contained anywhere between 2 to 4 episodes cost about 7,000 yen or $92. You would think this price point would be enough to deter people from buying anime, but you would be wrong. Because of the adults who bought everything, these fans carried the anime industry on their back by buying anime on DVDs despite its high retail price. And with the new era of home releases, OVAs began to be sold in so many different ways, with video games, and even as a special feature in DVD box sets. When the Blu-rays were the newest addition to home releases, the production of OVAs continued to be released on DVD, especially since PlayStation 2's continued to sell well even past its lifetime. By 2015, the number of OVAs that had home releases dropped by more than 10% with each passing year. The COVID-19 pandemic definitely didn't help as well, since the pandemic put a halt on a lot of anime production. But just because something doesn't make it to home release doesn't mean anime studios were out of options to test new shows. OVAs began as a form of experimentation for anime studios, and in the age of streaming, many things are now possible. And besides streaming, anime studios will sometimes air their anime in late-night broadcasts. Late-night anime, as the name implies, refers to anime that are broadcast between 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Networks that allow studios to air anime during these ungodly hours allowed studios to test new shows and find niche audiences to sell to. After these shows are broadcasted, costs are recovered through the sale of DVDs and Blu-rays, and other related products that help studios continually push for original animation. And that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite OVAs are.